Good evening, members. Good evening to good evening, members present physically and virtually. Today we have a very interesting session on future of audit. To speak on this, we have an eminent and very experienced speaker from Abu Dhabi. Is none other than CA Padmanabha Acharya. I welcome you, sir. I request our committee member Kavita to welcome the speaker with bouquet.
Thank you for coming on the day. It's a picture. Yeah. Listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavita. He is our own member. He is from Udupi, settled in Dubai, having more than 25 years of experience, and he was a past chairman of overseas branch of Abu Dhabi chapter during 2014 and 15. Very experienced professional. When he contacted me regarding before our conference, state level conferences, even in his busy schedule, he contacted me and said, I'm very passionate speaker. I need one slot. I'm coming to Bangalore. Immediately I agreed. I'm happy to, because it's our pleasure. Overseas chapter chairman, past chairman, and coming and addressing our members. Really, we are fortunate to have such a speaker like Padmanabha Acharya. Let us listen his experience. What is the future of audit? With this, I welcome you all once again. I request our Secretary Pramod to take it forward.
Thank you, Chairman. I take the privilege in introducing Mr. Padmanabha Acharya, fondly called as Paddy, he himself to be called as Paddy. So, Mr. Padmanabha is the President of Indian Business and Professional Group, Abu Dhabi, is also the audit partner and leads the audit and assurance practice for Deloitte in the United Arab Emirates. He has over 25 years of professional experience across the region. His extensive audit and advisory experience draws from serving a variety of clients, including national and multinational enterprises in telecommunications, energy and resources, manufacturing. His energy and resources experience covers upstream and downstream oil and gas, marine transport, nuclear and renewable energy sectors. Padmanabha also has been involved in significant advisory engagements, including based cost studies, internal control over financial reporting, IFRS conversions, privatizations, capital market and offering. He is the fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, which is our own institute, and associate member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, and a member of Colorado Society of Certified Public Accountants, United States. Padmanabha has already also served as a chairman of Abu chapter, as the chairman mentioned. He's like many international firms on various topics. He's also provided training in UAE, Greece, France, and Turkey. With this brief introduction,
thank you very much, Pramod, and thank you, CA Srinivas and CA Kavita, for having me here at this virtual hybrid session. The rain gods have been very kind to us, and I've never seen so much of rain. I live in Abu Dhabi, and probably what we get in a year, it's more than that today. So for all of those people, including CA Chandrasekhar, who are here in person, really, thank you for being here today, and we'll try to make it interesting and worth your time, whoever is trying to spend time on this particular session. And so what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover the future of audit. So let me just share my presentation, and I hope this is now visible to all of you. And so maybe a thumbs up from anyone who's virtually present. I can see that it is coming on screen, so hopefully all of you should be able to see it now. But today I'll cover in brief, what's happening in the overall world in terms of changes and how is it impacting the audit profession. And at the end, I have a bonus section in terms of some of my key life lessons. And maybe this, if it is put into practice, will also help many of you as fellow professionals. So this is the overall theme. And I hope that we are able to conclude before 8 o'clock, the time allocated to us by the chapter, and you get your 2 hours of CPE credit. So without any further ado, let me just take you quickly through the agenda. We're going to cover something in terms of the industrial revolution, the key changes which have happened over the past 2 centuries, some predictions, and in terms of the audit and accounting world, what's happening, what's the kind of transformation which is expected as far as auditors are concerned. In the new world, what kind of skill sets will be required by professionals, and then reimagining the audit. Last but not the least, as I said, some experiences from my life, and we'll keep some we'll keep some time later for question and answers. So one of the first things which we are looking at is the evolution of the industrial revolution. We had 4 phases of the industrial revolution, back in the 18th century, where mechanical production started, evolving into mass production in the 20th century, electrification, and today we are at Industry 4.0. You must have heard about this term quite a lot. So it's informatization of production. So this is what is there when you speak of cyber, physical systems. This is Industry 4.0. And when you're going to World Economic Forum, this is one of the topics which is highly discussed. And this is also introduced in various parts of the discussion which is happening nowadays. What's happening in terms of the technology? It is estimated that by 2025, there will be 1.5 billion smartphones. What does this mean is that there's a lot of data out there which is being created through smartphones. There would be definitely more than 7 billion smartphones in 2025. There is a prediction from Ericsson that by 2030, even smartphones will be extinct. As I said, there's a lot of data out there. And what does it mean when it comes to data is that when you have a lot of data that needs to be analyzed, and you need to take some insights out of that data. When you look at the population as well, the split of this population in terms of millennials is around 50%, and the overall age of our population that's increasing. The life expectancy is increasing, so you have a longevity dividend. So in the US, I heard that people are being asked to retire later than 65 years, because they can't afford to pay the pension costs if you retire early. So because of the life expectancy is going up, the remaining life of a person, if he stays till 80, 90, then there's also that much of a burden in terms of the government exchequer, in terms of paying pension. AI cognitives, the cost of a robot to build a bot is going down considerably. I was doing some research in India. This is even a fraction of $20,000. You can get a robot. Again, you need to be very clear. Are you looking at a mechanical robot or a bot, which can perform tasks in terms of, say, accounting reconciliations? When it comes to job vulnerability, what you studied in college earlier may not be relevant. And a lot of jobs are susceptible to replacement by machines. And we'll come to that, and we'll look at the accounting profession, which has some of the most major challenges. There's an explosion in the contingent workforce. In the US itself, it's expected that 35% of the US workers will be in this contingent bracket. And the average tenure of a job is around 4.5 years. Gone are those days where people will join a job and they'll say that they'll be in that company for the rest of their lives. I'm an exception, probably, having spent 25 years in Deloitte, and and 3 years prior to that in A. Ferguson, which is also Deloitte now. But in the future, you'll see a lot of people changing their jobs. And you've seen it in COVID itself, that post-COVID, a number of people are expecting to change their jobs. So these, I call them disruptors. And let's go forward and look at this. And I'm only building context now. So what's getting different? You had the enterprise resource packages, you have the EPMs, and now you're getting into the digital world. So particularly with the pandemic coming, the road to digitalization has accelerated completely. And what are we calling in terms of digitization is that the lack of involvement of a human process in the whole value chain is digitization. Banks have digitized much earlier than other entities. The telecom world is getting digitized. So when you're offering services to the consumer, and he doesn't have to go through the physical mode. Let's look at a telecom company. You want to get a SIM card. You want to activate your phone. You want to make a payment. You want to make a phone call. To what extent do you have to interface with a company in a physical mode? Rarely you have to. Maybe you may have to go and get your SIM card. Even that they're trying to digitize so that it comes to your house by Amazon, for instance. Okay, you want to, let's say, get your credentials out there in terms of your biometrics or your credentials in terms of your KYC. That can be digitized. You want to make payment for your monthly bill. That can be digitized. So by increasing digitization, what's happening is the requirement for human beings to be involved is coming down. When you have less human element, and when something can be done systematically and it can be repeated, machines can do that much better than human beings. And that's where I'm trying to get at. Now, some predictions, you've seen Elon Musk, what's happening in terms of the car world, how Tesla is disrupting the market when it comes to automotive. Our own Mahindra in India is going that route. I was looking at the kind of vehicles they are planning to bring, hybrid as well as electric vehicles. It also looks very nice. They've recently signed an agreement wherein they'll be importing the battery and some world-class cars will be coming out of India. What does it have in terms of inference? If you are in the hydrocarbon industry producing petrol or diesel, your days are numbered. By 2040, 2050, most of the cars which will be on the road will be electric, and then you don't need to go to a gas station. If you are in the auto repair industry, if you are in the fuel distribution industry, you need to start thinking what's going to happen to what I'm doing right now. So cities will be less noisy because electric cars, they don't make a lot of noise. In fact, they introduce some noise so that the vehicle is running. Otherwise, it's so noise less that you wouldn't even realize what's happening. So what I'm again trying to get at is the disruption which is happening to the world around us. If the world around us is disrupted, would the audit profession remain the same? Think about the company Kodak. Maybe in our younger days, we had Kodak cameras, and this was basically running the world as far as photography was concerned. Where is Kodak today? It's the brand is acquired. They're trying to relaunch Kodak, but that old glory no longer exists. If you're Nokia and if you had the dumb phone, where is it now? It's still there, but the world, as I said, is dominated by smartphones. Apple and Samsung, they've taken over the world. And as I said earlier, 1.5 billion smartphones are going to come in future. So if you are still producing the Nokia type of phones, you will not exist, which is one of the things which us as chartered accountants need to be aware of. Until and unless we upskill ourselves, understand what's happening around us, we could be the next Kodak. So there's a lot of disruption happening. Okay, look at what happened to Paytm. Demonetization came, COVID came, you have 150 million subscribers only in India of Paytm. 1.2 billion transactions per month. It was 1.5 billion transactions a few years ago per quarter. Now it's 1.2 every month. So this is the scale. Uber, look at it. I came today to the institute by Uber. That company has very little employees. They've just created a platform and it's an aggregator and it has disrupted the world. Look at Airbnb, what it has done to the hospitality industry. Again, it is disrupted. I'm using this term disruption quite a lot because even the audit profession will be disrupted by new developments, and the way the audit is done is going to be quite different. And I'll give you examples as well. So welcome to tomorrow. Okay. So look at the second oldest profession, which is the audit profession. Okay. Where it is, there is a 94% probability that we could be irrelevant in the future. Okay. Will auditors be required? Yes, it will be required. But the skill sets auditors will require will be quite different. Maybe you need a data analyst. Maybe you need someone to look at the judgment. You still need your partners to conclude. But anything which is routine and repetitive will be performed by machines and not human beings. And this is already affecting the way in which large firms are recruiting people today. Okay. So for smaller firms, this is something which you will experience in the future. So you need to start thinking about it from now. And which professions will be less susceptible, where skills are required, where it's not repetitive, where judgment is required, then you probably may not need machines. But as far as audit is concerned, it's going to be a combination of judgment and repetitive work. So when I look at a bank reconciliation, when I look at valuation of investments, it's logic based, it's repetitive. So machines can do it. You don't need a human being to do it. But when it comes to the level of provisions, for instance, there's judgment involved. You need a human being to look at that judgment. So to that extent, our jobs are protected, but to the extent anything can be standardized and it can be done repetitively, then machines will do it and not human beings. What is audit digitization? You've spoken about digitization as far as the industry is concerned. I gave you the example of a telecommunication company. But let's start thinking, can we digitize the audit itself? Can audit be done on the cloud? Okay. So to a large extent, I know a number of smaller firms still are using manual methods in terms of doing the audit. The documentation could be manual. Slowly, we may be shifting to a software-based audit. The institute itself is doing quite a lot to bring in systems, tools for the benefit of a number of firms. I think this is very, very important. And I think our institute also need to look at, probably they're already looking at these aspects, but to even look at it in the form of people, process, and technology. We have our people, which is our chartered accountants, moving to a digital mindset. And topics and seminars like this are quite helpful, because when we talk about what's required for the future in terms of our people, upskilling our people, then we are already talking about going into the future and digitization. So there's a people element there. And when I speak about the people element, it also leads to our curriculum in terms of what are we teaching our next generation in terms of auditing for the future. So part of our curriculum should also be related to the new things which are going to come in the future. So the people are already equipped with these skill sets when they come in. So, robotics, analytics should be a part of the curriculum itself. And I've had interactions with the Board of Studies, and they are involving industry professionals to ask what should our students be learning in the future. And it's not only us, the students, but also those who are qualified in terms of the continuing professional development. We need to equip our people with these skill sets which are required for the future. Second one is around process. So it's what I mean in terms of processes. How am I doing my audits? What's the process through which I'm doing my audits? To what extent I'm involving, the next element, which is technology, as far as the audits are concerned. So process is the way of doing things, and technology is the back end, the software, the tools which we can make use of as far as our audits are concerned. So the integration of all three, people, process, and technology, is the whole of audit digitization. And I will give you some practical examples of how technology would help us and how we need to transform the audit process. So start imagining, in terms of the possibilities of leveraging and looking at composition and activating. So we call it access, curate, and engage. So let's start thinking in terms of the finance world, the finance sector, how it's transforming. Look at the banks, okay? How many people used to visit the bank before? Going and filling your checkbook, paying slip. All of this is automated. Even if you want to create a new fixed deposit, that's systemized. So if your bank is doing end-to-end, digitized process, do you think as auditors we can stand back and say we will have a manual process to audit this bank? No. You need to also look at tools to look at end-to-end audit. Looking at auditing 100% of the population is not something which is not happening. It's already happening. But we come up with new challenges then. When you look at 100% of the population, you may come up with exceptions. So your time is not going in terms of doing the work on the 100%. A lot of time will be spent in terms of analyzing those exceptions and what these exceptions mean from an audit perspective and how we need to resolve those exceptions. So if a client comes and tells you, look, you're using software to do 100% of the audit, you are saving on hours, so you should charge lesser fees. The answer to that is that, look, it's not as simple as that. Once you do 100% testing, you also come up with exceptions, and those exceptions have to be investigated and need to be closed out properly for you to issue your audit opinion. And that's where the time of the auditor will go. So let's look at the business and finance sector, what is being transformed. So automation and blockchain, this is happening as far as the industry is concerned. Although blockchain is in its, I would say, infancy at this point in time, there are, in the future, a number of entities will adopt blockchain. So when this happens, there is a question mark which is raised saying that, do you need an audit? Because it is on a blockchain and the level of manipulation which is possible is much lower. So is an audit required? And in my own humble opinion, you will still need an audit. And what you need is something called blockchain assurance. Even there, you need some level of assurance to be provided. And given that regulations are still not, I would say, uniform all throughout, so till there is standardization and as well, some common standards established all throughout, I don't expect, someone to come and say that, if something is on the blockchain, audit is not required. Okay, again, let's not go through the internet and say, whatever is written there is true. We need to do our own research, but some new skill sets have to be developed for as far as chartered accountants are concerned in terms of what is blockchain, to understand what blockchain is, what could go wrong in the blockchain world. Okay, so the risks associated with blockchain, what kind of checks and assurance can be given in terms of blockchain, and what kind of services can be developed around the assurance of blockchain. These are some new ideas, and as far as we are concerned, we are already doing a lot of work around this. And I encourage all chartered accountants to upskill themselves as far as blockchain is concerned and understand the possibilities of doing work around blockchain assurance. Then you have come up with, there are a lot of people now offering software as a service. So your client actually doesn't own the IT platform. They're just using this as a service. Again, you need to see in such a situation, how can you get comfort around that software as a service? So there are possibilities around work, in terms of testing controls around the provider of this software as a service. Again, you have a lot of bots coming, algorithms being developed. So you need to have those skill sets to audit these bots. What could go wrong again in this world is something which you need to understand. So one of the things which you should ask your clients is that, do you have any bots employed? What are the processes which are being done by the bots? And how do you have comfort that there isn't anything going wrong as far as the bots are concerned? So what could go wrong? The same thing which could go wrong as far as your processes are concerned in a manual world or in a digitized world is also the same as far as the bots are concerned. These are some of the things which we need to look at quite carefully as far as the audit world is concerned. So let me again look at this in the form of people, process, and technology, where the transformation is happening. As far as people are concerned, you need to develop a strategic mindset, an analytical mindset. When I speak of analytical mindset, when you are having a lot of data, what do? You need to analyze that information and draw an inference, draw insights out of that particular data. Just to give you an example, let's say that you are in the retail world and you have a number of customers coming and buying from your retail supermarket. So in an analytical world, you will see who is my buyer, what's the population of people coming, what's the pattern of buying, what's the average buy, what's the days in which I have higher sales compared to other sales, and can I draw some inference out of this? What are the months in which I have higher sales? Can I induce my consumers to buy more? So these are some things. As an auditor, I need to understand what is the client doing. Are there any promotional activities which are influencing sales? Are there any spikes as far as sales are concerned? And an auditor should also understand what the client is doing so that we are able to draw an inference. And that's where data analytics come into picture. These are, so the last point there is being insightful. It's very, very important for us as auditors to provide insight to our clients as well in terms of their own data. Sometimes the client doesn't analyze the data in which you are doing the analysis. And that's where it will be helpful. We, for instance, have a particular tool which does 14 types of tests on journal entries. As you are aware, international standards on auditing require the auditor to test journal entries. Now, manually to test the journal entries is quite difficult. But if you are able to do a complete test on all of your journal entries from end to end and perform certain fraud-based tests, that gives insights. Let me give you an example. Assume that you are designing a test, okay, through your software itself to say, I want to test a journal which is posted by someone who normally doesn't post a journal, has posted a round number sum on a holiday, okay? Then these have characteristics of fraud. And then maybe even let's put a description, suspense account, or miscellaneous. These have got traits of fraud. So this is of audit interest to us as chartered accountants. So we bring all of this together, and then we have a smaller set of journals which we need to look at, which have traits of fraud. We are much better off looking at this rather than doing it randomly. Similarly, your ERP system will have regular journals which are posted by the system, and you also have journals which are posted, which are manual in nature. As far as audit interest is concerned, the manual journals are of much more of audit interest to the auditor, because the chance of a debit entry and credit entry being posted wrongly or intentionally is much higher in a manual journal than a system-based journal. So through analytics, you can separate manual journals from these system-based journals. So how does transformation look at? So when I look at it, when it comes to workforce, and in terms of others, we have some differences. So when it comes to the role of finance, how is finance managed? How is finance governed? Is something which all of us have to look at. When it comes to the workforce, how will the digital enabled capabilities, what is it required in the future? That's something which we need to look at. What's our talent model? Today, when we recruit in our CA firms, we get our article clerks, we have our paid assistants, we have our managers, we have our partners. And right now, probably we are looking at people with a technical mindset, some people with an audit mindset who know their debits and credits. Do you think in the future, the workforce, we will only go with this, or we'll look at other elements? Definitely our talent model will change in the future, because we'll be looking at more resources who have a digital mindset. We have people with an analytical mindset. That's what we'll be looking at. So in terms of the transformation journey, we need to prepare our leaders for a data-driven decision-making model. We need to create interdisciplinary teams. By that, what do we mean? We need people with IT skill sets. We need people with valuation skill sets. We need people with technical skill sets. So you need all types of people as far as the audit profession is concerned. We need to start rethinking the traditional roles which we've been playing. And as I said earlier, we need to upskill our people as far as our audit skills are concerned. And as far as our life is concerned, as long as we practice, we should be learning. Later in my presentation, I have a story to tell on this. So we have to foster this lifelong learning. And as far as our institute is concerned, of course, we have the continuing professional development that will help us as well to do that. And when it comes to a process, obviously, you're looking at an efficient process. You're looking at data accuracy and it being seamless end to end. And when it comes to tools, I'll try to spend some time here in terms of the type of tools which are being developed in the audit world today. This is very interesting. Let me just spend some time here. One of the first tools is something called a client collaboration website. What is this? It's very simple. You build a web page or a secured place wherein your client can upload all the documentation which is required for your audit. The advantage with this is that you're prepared by client list, your audit want list. The client can populate. There's no more going back and forth that you didn't send me this information. Once it is populated, it is there for the client to see, for you to see. And where the client has not submitted some information which you require, it sends automated emails. Your staff assistant or your manager doesn't have to send email reminders. There's no confusion that the client has submitted something and you haven't issued something. So this client collaboration website is something very useful. And again, if the institute has not developed this, my suggestion to the institute is to start developing it for our small and medium-sized practices, which they can adopt. The second one is a cloud-based software. So far, our audit software was in our own machines. The challenge with that is if something happens to the machine and the work, it goes. So the other one is you have it in machines, but it is synchronized, and later a final version is then archived. The challenge to that as well is that something happens to one of the machines, part of the work is lost. The new thing now is a cloud-based software. The advantage with this is similar to Google Documents. It is there in the cloud. Everybody can work on that. You will never lose it. and everybody can collaborate and save on that document incrementally. If there is a clash, you can always accept it. The future is cloud-based software where you have your audit programs online, your working papers online, everything is online, it's saved online, it's archived online. So this is the future in terms of cloud-based software. Analytics, very interesting subject here. How can analytics help? I'll give you a few practical examples. You have a client, and in that client, you suspect that a purchase order is being split. Okay, so assume that 1 lakh rupees, above 1 lakh, it has to go to the CEO for approval. Below 1 lakh, the chief of procurement can approve this. So it is being split. You have, at least as an auditor, you have a doubt that it is being split. You can run an analytics tool, and you can analyze your data of all the purchase orders. You can filter by date, and it can show you that all these purchase orders were issued to the same vendor on the same day. It's just below 1 lakh. So then you can then analyze through your analytics that these could be potential breach of the delegation of authority. Okay. Similarly, you have the three-way match, which you can do through analytics. Okay. That this can, if there is no three-way match, then there is something wrong as far as the population is concerned. There could be a discrepancy. Similarly, single source purchase orders you can identify through analytics. Last but not the least, through analytics, you can reperform 100% of the transaction. For instance, you have your investment valuation, where you have the number of shares, you have the rate as per the stock exchange, and you have the valuation. You can do 100% reperformance through independent sources. You can get this information, and through analytics, you can get comfort. So you can, through analytics, even do things like debits to a credit account. You expect that for sales, mostly it is credit, but sometimes there is a debit to sales. Okay. Alternatively, you know that the debit to when there is a credit to revenue, the debit should be to debtors or to cash. But if there is a debit to any other account, you can pick it up through analytics. So this is something which will really open up a lot as far as our testing is concerned. There is software today which will help you count your inventories, your fixed assets through barcoding. So this is wonderful. There is software where you can do the confirmation process through tools. So you can do that, and you can save a lot of time. Last but not the least, there is something called NLP, okay, natural language processing, and you can use software to read contracts for you. So imagine you're doing the audit of a construction company, and you don't need to employ someone to read the contract. What does the auditor care about? Contract start date, contract stop date, contract value, clauses like liquidated damages, penalties, escalation. So if you say these are the things, the software will pick up all of this and summarize the contract for you. You still need somebody to review what the software has summarized, but you don't need someone to read through the contract and write it for you. And this can also work in multiple languages. So this is the future. And these technologies are not something which are going to be developed. These already exist. And firms are already using this technology as far as their audits are concerned. So we need to evolve. We need to evolve to survive. If we don't do this, you saw earlier the presentation. We are one of the professions which can easily be replaced by machines. So what do we have to do? We need the skill sets to be analytical, to be agile and anticipatory. We need to anticipate what are the changes which are going to come. We need to be adaptive in terms of going to a situation, embracing new technologies, ensuring that we are one step ahead as far as our profession is concerned. We need to be agile. By agile, I mean that you need to be in tune with the changes which are happening and move very quickly. We need to be anticipatory. What it means is that you need to predict what is happening as far as the technology is concerned, as far as the business is concerned, and we need to adopt to ensure that we survive and we don't perish. Last but not the least, critical thinking and problem solving skills are paramount as far as the audit profession is concerned. So what do you need in this field to survive? Obviously, communication is very essential as far as our profession is concerned, and we need to communicate effectively with our clients and with our people. It's going to be a data-driven audit, so you need the skill sets in terms of data analytics to be a part of your teams. You need to be have a change in terms of your mindset. So if you are having that legacy mindset, you need to ensure that you are in tune with what is going to happen in the future. Digitization is essential. As I said, standardization and moving to digitizing your audit process is very well required as far as your future is concerned. Blockchain is going to come, and you need to understand what blockchain means for your clients, and you need to also understand the risks associated with blockchain and how you're going to audit entities which are using blockchain. Robotics. Adopting robotics as far as the audit process is concerned is also important. There are two things here. One is clients have used robotics as far as their business process is concerned. So understanding how the client has handled robotics is important, and how are you going to audit around that? Second thing is, can you use robotics as far as the audit itself is concerned? You know, for instance, I told you the test of journal entries. This can be done by robots to a certain extent. At the final stage, where there are some exceptions we need to deal with, but as far as the repetitive process is concerned, that's something which bots can do much better than human beings. And artificial intelligence. I spoke about that software earlier in terms of NLP to read contracts. That has artificial intelligence. So with each contract, it learns itself, and there's an iterative process.
Natural language
Processing. So how are the audits evolved over a period? Previously, we had annual audits, okay? So where people expected only that at the end of the financial year, you give assurance. That's still there as far as some private entities are concerned. But when we look at listed entities and certain other entities, you have, quarterly reviews which are required. And then you have reporting required in India as well, and several parts of the world as far as the interim, ICFR, internal control on financial reporting. And for listed companies, you have the key audit matters, which has come in large parts of the world, and it's also going to come in other jurisdictions. So what does key audit matters give us? It gives the reader of the financial statement some insights in terms of those elements which the auditor has communicated with those charged with governance. A small subset of that, they're making the audit report more meaningful as far as the shareholders are concerned. So looking at the digitization of the audit in the early 1950s, what was thought about in terms of fraud, you needed some level of detection and financial accountability. But as far as the auditors were concerned, you didn't expect that much. Auditors were considered as watchdogs, not the bloodhounds. Over a period, the expectations as far as the auditors are concerned in terms of fraud and also in terms of what we are expected to do is much more from regulators and the general public. So we need to upskill and we need to also develop internally our skill sets so that we are in tune with the requirements of regulators and the general public. So coming to the three factors driving change in mindset, I would say exploring digital, doing digital, and becoming digital. These are the key elements. This should be woven as far as our DNA is concerned, and otherwise we'll be criticized, as far as the general public is concerned. And we can see this happening, isn't it? When we look around us, there's a big expectation gap between what the public expect, what the auditor should do, what the clients expect the auditors to do, what the clients pay us to do, and what we actually do. And until and unless we adopt digitization, it's going to be quite challenging for us to survive in the future. So we need to embrace automation, and we need to ensure that we are trained as far as tomorrow is concerned, embrace this new disruption so that we can reimagine what the audit does. So I spoke to you about earlier. Right now, the audit is more or less like a pyramid, isn't it? You've got a lot of staff assistants at the bottom. You have experienced associates. You have fewer managers, fewer senior managers, and very few partners. Maybe the span of control for every 10 people to 20 people, you have a partner. Going forward, the way the audit teams will be there is going to be quite different. You have a few staff, you will require IT specialists, you will require, of course, a manager, you will require specialists like tax specialists, valuation specialists, but you will also require cybersecurity specialists, analytics specialists, etc. So the skill sets which will be required will be much different, and it's not going to look like a pyramid. It's going to look more like what I have presented here. So there are some statistics and some surveys around recent publications. Over the next 5 years, how do you expect the type of work within finance to change? 45.8% believe that there'll be more analytical, and the remaining believe it will be some more analytical. Only 8.4% of the people believe it's going to remain the same. So you can see how things are changing. Yeah? So we need to also look at what is being said, and 61.7% of the people believe that critical thinking and problem-solving skills are going to be very essential. 18.9% believe that leadership is going to be the key factor. 40.4% believe strong technological skills are required. So what are the key takeaways from our discussion? You need to grow, again, adopt technology into creating new and more fulfilling roles. You need to transform your organization. You need to streamline your processes and remove the bottlenecks. And you need to equip your team with insights to foster innovation and create value. These are some of the key takeaways. And with this, we conclude the first part of the discussion in terms of the future of audit. Now we get into the second part of our discussion, which is the bonus session around some experiences in life. This is not going to be very technical. This is going to be more around some stories from my life. Hopefully these are interesting. Hopefully there will be some takeaways for all of you also from this. So just give me a minute to transition into this particular discussion. So let me start these experiences from my life. So shall we proceed with this? Okay. So these are some quotes from different people, and feel free if these are also useful for you. And in brackets,
you'll be sharing the PPT.
Yes, I'll be sharing the PowerPoint as well. Yeah. So one of the I joined the CA profession in 1994. I have here CA Chandrasekhar Aital, who I met at a CA students conference in Calcutta in 1995. So that's where we started our careers. So in 1994, I joined A. Ferguson, and we had one gentleman by the name of A.C. Gupta, who was our partner. One of the first things he told me was, there is no office boy in this office. By that, what he meant was, if you needed to do something like prepare tea or photocopy a document, you need to do it yourself. And even Mr. Gupta did it himself, which taught all of us humility for us to stay grounded. And in our profession, however big we become, I remember this saying of Mr. Gupta, and to this day, to a large portion, I do the photocopying of my documents myself, and if I have to do something, I'll go to the desk of a particular person, and I stay grounded. I lead the audit practice of a large firm for a country, but I always remember the roots from where I came and the words of Mr. Gupta, that there's no office boy in this office. Mr. Gupta used to read quite a lot. Okay, every day in the afternoon, I used to visit his office, and he used to sit there and read, several magazines, Economic Times, some business-related magazines, and he used to underline, highlight, sometimes make cuttings of this. And I used to ask Mr. Gupta, why do you read so much, Mr. Gupta? And he said, Acharya, you know why clients respect us? Our clients respect us because they believe we know more than them. And the day they believe that they know more than you, they'll stop respecting you. And I read so that I can continuously understand and improve myself. And that continuing professional development I understood from him when I started my profession. So this is very, very important as far as the audit profession is concerned, and linking back to the future of audit. The third one is a saying from one of my partners when I joined Deloitte, called Alfred Stoller. He had a good influence at the early part of my career, and this is very early on, somewhere around 1999 or so. I received a phone call, but it was a matter not related to my client. Okay, I used to handle maybe around 5 or 10 entities. It was a different entity. So I went and I told so my partner asked me, what is it? I said, it is something, but it doesn't relate to my client. So one of the first things he told me is that every client of this office is your client. Don't keep this mindset that this is your portfolio and this is your client. When someone calls us, he doesn't know that these 10 clients are in your portfolio. You need to ensure that that client is serviced, and you need to find out who is doing this work, communicate, and if for some reason that person is not there, step in to get this done. It doesn't mean that you're going beyond your role, but it means that you treat every client of the firm as your client. And this is a message to every chartered accountant out there, every staff out there who's listening to this. Keep this in mind, take ownership of the situation and ensure that your client is serviced. The next one is also something which Alfred Stoller told me. We always hear about the saying that the grass is green on the other side, but he told me the grass is green on this side. What does that mean? Is that, the audit profession is a very challenging profession. Many of us have taken this, and always along the line, you will be looking at industry, which will look greener than the audit profession. And clients will come and will offer you employment. Industry will offer you employment. And sometimes the premium is 25%, sometimes even it's 50%. It's very attractive for you to take it up. And trust me, all throughout your life, you will have these opportunities. As long as you're in the audit profession, it's always easy to go into industry because industry employs a lot from the audit profession. But coming back, it happens, but not as often as what happens from here. But for all those people who stay till the end in terms of being a partner or getting equity in a firm, trust me, grass is always much greener on this side. So again, I'm advocating for the audit profession here. Apologies for all those friends who are in industry listening to this. But if you're in industry, you stick to industry, stick to what you like, what you're passionate about, and I'm sure you'll be successful. The next one is from my leadership coach called Hugh. And he told me something that you need to make yourself dispensable. And I'll explain the context to you. Back in 2015, I was selected to go to a leadership development program. And here I was assigned an external coach. It was a 1-year development program wherein I had to have some interactions with my coach and with my mentor, who was a different person. And during this period, one of the sessions, I had to travel to Belgium. And I couldn't travel because I had a client proposal. It was an important proposal. So I had to stay back in Abu Dhabi to do that proposal presentation. And the next day I flew. So my leadership coach asked me, Paddy, why didn't you come yesterday? The program started yesterday, but you came today. I told my coach I had an important client proposal which I couldn't avoid. And this is the reason why I was delayed by a day. And he said that, what if somebody else did the presentation instead of me? What would have happened? I said, no, the client had an expectation that I should be there for that presentation. And if I didn't attend that presentation, it is likely that we would not have won that proposal. So one of the first things which my client said is that, as far as I'm concerned, my task would be to ensure that whoever is next in line, my successor, he or she should have the skill sets to present even in my absence. And I should make myself dispensable. So even without me, the show can go around. And I said, okay, if I make myself dispensable, what happened to me? So what if I'm not required? Then he said, Paddy, do you want to grow in your organization? I said, yes. He said, until and unless you make yourself dispensable, how can you go to do greater things in life? So you should have a successor, you should do a succession planning. Someone else should be able to do your role so that you can do something greater than what you are doing today. So one of the mantras I learned is to make yourself dispensable. I know, ladies and gentlemen, it's a difficult thing to make yourself dispensable, but trust me that if you delegate and effectively train the people below you, this is going to result in further growth for you. The next thing is doing the most difficult things first. This is again something which my leadership coach Hugh taught me. And this is because many a times we park the difficult things for later. And then, you have this urgent and important quadrant. We tend to do things only when they become urgent and important. And we are under stress all throughout because we know that this is important and it's urgent, but we put it in the back burner. We tend to do easy things first and keep the difficult things for later. And I asked my leadership coach asked me, once you do the difficult thing at the end, when you can't avoid it, how do you feel? I said, I feel relieved. And he asked me one follow-up question. Was it as difficult as you thought? I said, no. Then he said, why don't you do the most difficult things first? By doing that, you will have a sense of achievement, and usually the difficult things are the important things. So when it comes to your emails, you tend to do the easy emails first and keep the ones with attachments, ones with the complex things later. Do things when you're fresh and take the most complex things and solve them. And trust me, by prioritization, this will change your life. You will have lesser stress in life by adopting this particular approach. Have I succeeded? No, but I am much better now compared to how I was when it comes to difficult things. Make audit quality your number one priority. You will have a lot of benefits out of this. You will have clients, but never compromise on audit quality. This may come at the cost of even your margins, but quality should be over everything. And this is something which I've learned. And that's something which will also reward you. Later in life, when you have that consistent quality milestone, people will come to you for quality. They will say, what, if you want quality, go to Chandrasekhar Aitar. He will give you quality. That loyalty will build up when you keep audit quality as your number one priority. This is a small story from my interaction with Mr. Narayan Murthy. Mr. Narayan Murthy also hails from Bangalore. I had the opportunity of interacting with this wonderful person during a CA seminar. This was a seminar which happened in our chapter in Abu Dhabi. So I've learned several things from him. And one of the things is how simple this person is. Okay. So I was in a car going along with him, and I asked him, we were going to a place called Emirates Palace. In Emirates Palace, it's a 7-star hotel. My job was to give him a tour of the place. He looked at this wonderful facility. He looked at all of this, and then I asked him, how do you like this, Mr. Narayan? He says, Paddy, this is very nice, but I have learned something in my life. Find joy with simple things in life. He said, you should come and see my house in Bangalore, and you will understand what I'm saying. We live in a small house, and Sudha and I, we find joy from simple things in life. And this has been inculcated in us from our childhood. He said his father was a school teacher, and he used to encourage them to go to the garden. They had these gardens, and he said that during this period, I used to go and we used to listen to music in the evenings between, 5 or 6 o'clock. They used to, play music. Said we didn't have a radio at home. We used to go and listen to music, and the joy which we got from going there is completely different, And his dad used to encourage him to go to the library, read books, borrow books, and read them. And he says all of these things have had a solid foundation in terms of him being an individual, and what he has created. And he said, find joy from simple things in life. We may spend a lot of money on several things, but some of the things which we've created with our family by even playing a simple game, that gives you much more joy than a costly present. And one more thing I want to say about Mr. Narayan Murthy is I had asked one of our colleagues, Suresh Panwar, to go and drop him to the airport. So Suresh told him that we've arranged business class for you. Sorry, not business class. It's called golden class, wherein he doesn't have to stand in a queue. He will go very quickly. So Mr. Narayan Murthy said, does the person going in a business class or economy reach at the same time? He said, yes, sir. He said, then I don't have any problem standing in the queue. He said, I'm going to Kuwait from here, and I'm flying economy because based on Infosys policy, for the short distance, I should fly economy, and I should set the standard as chairman emeritus. He refused to take, from us money for the ticket, and also he said accommodation he will pay himself. We said, Mr. Murthy, you can't do this. You are a guest of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Abu Dhabi chapter. We are doing this for everybody, and you should take, the accommodation. We will pay for it. The hotel, we will not let you pay for it. Very rarely we have seen human beings like this. I wanted to tell to our members some of my personal experience in terms of, the simplicity of that gentleman and what we all can learn from Mr. Murthy, in terms of finding joy from the simple things in life. The next one is I met a very simple person at Reliance. Okay, this is a conversation which I had with him, and again, for the sake of our members, I'm speaking to you about my experience. So I asked this gentleman, do you travel and do you want to come to Abu Dhabi? And he said, look, I don't travel nowadays, and I'm just focused in terms of three things. Or our organization is focused in terms of three things. He spoke about, J&J, which was Geo and Jamnagar. Okay, and that they're focused in terms of this. The second thing was, of course, about running the business and the debt, and we all know that they repaid a lot of debt. And the last thing which he spoke to struck a chord with me, and that's what I said. They are focused in terms of developing the next generation of talent. And he said that people like me are focused in terms of developing the next generation of talent. What I learned from this gentleman was he was laser focused in terms of what the organization was focused on and what he was focused on. And he said, because of this focus, he doesn't have the time to travel and meet people abroad. And the lesson I took is that if you want to be successful, be focused on 3 or 4 things which you want to achieve, and 100% you'll be successful. Okay. The last thing is something from cricket, from the world of cricket, and I think all of us love cricket, and I want you to look at this date, 19 January 2021, and I want us to go back in time, and this is the series between India and Australia. What happened in the first match in Adelaide? The first match in Adelaide, India was bowled out for 36 runs. Virat Kohli was the captain. Okay, you had all the firepower. We were bowled out for 36 runs. Okay, and the first match we badly lost. Okay, everybody, what was the expectation? They said, and what happened? Virat Kohli came back to India. Not even 3 people, I think only 3 people were there from the first team till the team which played the final match. It was a 4-match test series. And the question was, after losing the first test, where do we go from here? Okay, either we could have given up, or Ravi Shastri and go with Ajinkya Rahane could have said, where do we go from here? How can we win from here? Okay, in life we have a lot of adversity. You can't change what has happened. You can really think, where can I go from here? Where can I win from here? And what happened? Subsequent test, there was one test which we won. One test, I think the third test, we were tied. We went into the GABA test. The GABA, which is the final frontier, where, Australia has not been beaten for how many years? 32 years. They haven't been beaten. You're going with Ajinkya Rahane and a team of people where even a reserve bowler has formed a part of the team. Okay, and you have Shubman Gill, you have Rishabh Pant, and these are the people who are out there. And what did we do? We did the unthinkable. Gaba, we beat Australia in their 10, taking a 2-1 lead, a historic win which has never happened. And think of it, 36 all out to winning the series. Where do we win from here? It's a winning mindset which the Indian cricket team had, and that's the mindset which we all need to develop. We will face adversities, but how do we go there and how do we win from there is what we need to all develop. And with this, I conclude my presentation, and we've got some time for Q&A, either live questions or audience questions. So with this, I hope that you had an interesting time and you've learned something new in terms of this we probably concluded slightly ahead of time, but I've left some time for Q&A and, over to you. Srinath ji, Hegde ji, any audience questions? Alternatively, anybody from who's present here, if they want to ask any questions also, I'm happy to answer. Okay, if there are no questions, then happy to, yeah. Is there any question?
It's just check.
You can ask a question if you have anything here. Of course, you have.
You have presented it very lucidly and it's good. Since I know you for last 25, 28 years, so I know. Good.
These are not updated and not outdated.
Yes.
And getting ourselves to the subjects is one thing, and then updating ourselves with something which is yet to come.
Beyond the subject.
Beyond the subject. Technology will take us.
Technology is. Memorism. But is limited. No, not you.
No questions so far.
Okay, so I have concluded my presentation. So thanks.
Thank you, sir. Huh? Sir, you told before starting your session some bonus.
Yeah, the bonus was the experience slide, which I covered with all of the stories. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have time to share now, or can we conclude?
No, I did that. I did that in the presentation.
Okay. Then we missed. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for on behalf of Bangalore branch of ICA. You are sharing your experience to our members. I thank on behalf of Bangalore branch of ICA for your valuable time and efforts in sharing your knowledge. I request our committee member Manjunath Hallur to present a memento to the sir. Thank you, Manjunath. Thank you, Padmanabh sir. We would like to see many more sessions from you. Even if when you go back to Abu Dhabi, we would like to connect through virtual, and even our members also eager to listen to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Secretary Pramod to give a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, everyone. It was an excellent session. We have come to an end of excellent session. Hope members had an outlook of how the future is going to be in our audit. And of course, we were glad and we are happy to learn about your life experiences, sir. I thank each one of you who attended this seminar and made it a great success. Thank you, everyone. Good night.